In 1932, the United States Public Health Services began conducting a study on African American men infected with syphilis in the small Tuskegee town of Alabama. The 400 men participating in the study never gave consent for the experiment. During the next 40 years, the men were never informed a treatment had been made available years ago because they were unaware they had a disease. In 1999, the Tuskegee University Bioethics Center opened its doors to champion for susceptible populations. However, the role of bioethics and the moral implications are not solely focused on what happened at Tuskegee.
More importantly than the quote-unquote Tuskegee trial, it was an unethical event, a wrongdoing by the U.S. Public Health Service, the federal government. And many people think it was something that happened in Tuskegee, i.e. the Tuskegee syphilis study. It's a misnomer. It is, in fact, the U.S. Public Health Service syphilis study at Tuskegee. And what people need to understand, it was the abuse of human beings that were vulnerable. And they said it was a medical research project, a biomedical research project. It was not. It was a longitudinal study, if you will, at best, to see what happens when people die from syphilis. So it was not ethical, it was not scientific, it was an absurdity.
According to Warren, there are populations more vulnerable to unethical treatment than others, and this population remains the same today.
They are, describe them, African American men, lesser educated, and underemployed. So the same populations that were vulnerable then is the same population that's vulnerable now.
This vulnerable population can be found to still carry long-lasting effects from the trial, which some researchers, like Darcy Stecke, a bioethicist at Tuskegee University, say they are worse than the trial itself.
Even the spokesperson for the survivors of the study, Mr. Herman Shaw, who spoke at the White House during the apology, said something to this effect. The damage that the syphilis study has done is far deeper than the wound any of us may have suffered.
These wounds were inflicted upon the men with the help of Nurse Rivers, who recruited participants for physicians. According to Sadecki, her involvement in the context of the time must be looked at, because supporting a federal government study was considered to be an opportunity.
In her mind, she was doing some good. And as you pointed out, she might even think that, who am I to question the physicians, right? Physicians know it all. I mean, that's part of the reason why bioethics came to be in the first place, right? Because physicians have this paternalistic issues to deal with, because they believe that they know it all, and once they speak, then no one should question their judgment.
With the help of bioethics, researchers and medical professionals are being held to a higher standard when it comes to human subject research. However, the difference between right and wrong is rarely open for debate, making it hard to wonder how unethical treatment was not avoided.
How does it continue on? Because your documented evidence of continual violations in research and studies, they knew. So the question is, what allows you to deny what you know? That's the real question. So it's not an issue of knowledge, in my view. It's an issue of courage. To have the courage to say it's wrong.